Hi everyone, welcome to Lola's Frugal Life. This is episode number 135. Today we're going to be talking about creating a simple meal plan. So please stick around for a few quick words from our sponsor and we'll get right into the show. Hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about creating a simple meal plan. But before we get into the topic, I just wanted to give my frugal tip of the week, like I always do on our non-frugal topic-based episodes. Although this one's arguable that is kind of a frugal topic, but meal planning doesn't have to be frugal. It depends on what you're making. So either way, one of the tips, and I have shared this one in the past, but I thought it was appropriate related to creating a meal plan, is to give generic or store brands a try if you aren't already using them. And it doesn't have to be for everything. Certain, products you might like a specific brand over others, over like other certain brands or over other store brands. But I would definitely recommend trying out store brand or generics for a variety of different things. You could try out something here and there, because often you'll find that a lot of them are just as good, if not sometimes better, and it can really save you a lot of money by using those instead of the name brand prices. Because the name brands, a lot of the cost too is related to marketing and store placement, stuff like that. So anyway, just give it a try and see if you might be able to save some money that way. So, okay, meal planning. So I wanted to do an episode on meal planning because I used to be really kind of overwhelmed by meal planning. I always did a meal plan not always, but for quite a while I've done a meal plan. But there was times where I would really stress over it and I would sit there and try and think, how am I going to do this meal plan? What am I going to make? I would look at recipes. I couldn't figure out what to do. And it was always this big ordeal. It took a lot of time and I used to stress over it. And then I'd be trying to hurry up to get it done so I could get my grocery shopping done. And so I thought maybe if I could offer a few tips that might help someone in kind of simplifying the process, it might be, helpful. So the reason that we want to create a meal plan is pretty much because it takes away that little bit of stress that's caused every day by thinking, what am I going to do for dinner? If you don't know what's going to be for dinner tonight, you have to think on the spot. What do you have? What ingredients do I have that I can make a meal with? Do I need to order out? It's something that you have to think about each day. You also, so it takes away that stress. It also helps you eat generally healthier because you're not tempted to order out or have a frozen meal or something like that. And you definitely will save money and have less food waste because you're really focused on purchasing the items that you need for the meals that you're going to make that are actually on your meal plan. So that's kind of why it's important to have a meal plan, is because it just makes life easier, helps you eat better, and just takes away that daily question of what's for dinner. So some of the things that you want to consider before you kind of start putting together your meal plan are what is the reason, what do you want out of this meal plan? You want to think about how much time do you have to prepare meals on a daily basis? If you have a limited amount of time, you're not going to create this super complicated meal plan with real crazy, recipes that take a lot of time to make. You want to think about the types of meals that you're going to make. Do you want to make quick meals, or do you want to and have the time to make more complicated meals? Are you okay with a frequent rotation of certain meals or most meals? Or would you rather always have a lot of variety in your meal plan? So my family is okay with mostly eating the same basic meals on a regular basis. I don't really repeat anything more than every 2 weeks, but there's still a rotation to the plan. And even every 2 weeks, honestly, sometimes they'll be like, didn't we just have this? I'm like, no, we had it 2 weeks ago. But, it depends on what you're okay with. And the less frequent you want meals, you just need to extend out those rotations if you're going to rotate certain things, if you're going to do that type of meal plan, where you're going to have food on a rotation, but you don't have to do it that way. Another thing you want to think about with meal planning is things to consider when creating your meal plan is, are you trying to keep food costs down? So if you are, you're going to want to think about the types of meals you're putting in your meal plan to make sure they're on the lower cost end, or at least that you're balancing it out. If you have a more expensive meal in the meal plan that week, then maybe you need to look at a couple of the other ones and kind of choose some lower cost options to keep within your budget. You also need to think about the days of the week. Are certain days busier or less predictable than others? So like, for example, I do an easy to make soup and grilled cheese or breakfast for dinner on Thursdays, because that's when I go food shopping after work, and I know I'm not going to have a lot of time to cook that night. So I specifically make sure every Thursday I had already pre-planned, when I figured out my meal plan process, that Thursdays was soup and grilled cheese or breakfast for dinner, because they both come together really quickly, and I just want a quick meal to throw together on Thursday nights after I get back from grocery shopping. You also want to think about if you're going to be planning a meal for every night of the week, or just for a few nights, and also, like, will you be planning a takeout night? Like when I used to have my Girl Scout troop a while back, well, it wasn't that long ago, but a few years ago, we had our meetings on Tuesdays. So our local pizza place happened to have a pizza special every Tuesday. So every Tuesday that we had a Girl Scout meeting, to make it easier on myself, I would do the pizza takeout special. So we'd get 2 pizzas for whatever. It was like a low price, and we would do that for dinner on Girl Scout night. That way I could just do the pizza, then get ready for the Girl Scout meeting. So kind of think about, like, what do you have going on during the week that might make it more difficult to cook meals, or giving you less time to cook meals, because you want to plan around that also. You don't want to plan like lasagna on a night when you have like all this extra stuff to do. And then also you need to think about, when will you be going grocery shopping? Like, will you have a certain day to go grocery shopping? I find that with meal planning, it's definitely makes it a lot easier to have a specific day you go grocery shopping each week. That way you can, do the meal plan in coordination with that food shopping day. And in this aspect, though, what I'm talking about here, as far as in planning your meals, thinking about when is your shopping day, this is more about the fresh ingredients. You want to consider when you're doing your meal plan, like which days to use the most perishable items. So like, for example, if you go food shopping on Fridays, you're not going to want to plan to eat some fresh ingredient that's going to go really bad on the following Thursday. And I don't mean like frozen things like meats and stuff. Of course you could freeze, but like, say if you're using, I don't know, like maybe one of those bagged salads, like the bagged salad kits, and they don't go bad really fast. But generally, like if you buy one of those bagged salad kits, you want to use it like fairly quickly within a few days, because sometimes they do start to like wilt and stuff like that. So maybe you want to, if you shop on Friday, maybe you want to plan to have that in your meals for like, I don't know, by Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. So it's just kind of thinking about any like fresh produce, things like that you would want to use up quickly, to have those earlier in the week. And then the items that last longer, you would place later in your meal plan closer to the next shopping trip. So that's just kind of some things you want to think about, like before you actually even start getting your meal plan together. You kind of want to have in your mind, like, what do you want out of this meal plan, and what are some things that you need to think about when you're putting it together. Now, when I'm talking about a meal plan, to me, just for reference, I think of a meal plan as having every single day, I know what I'm having for dinner that day. So that's kind of the approach that I'm talking from, because that's how I do it. But I know that there are definitely people too that just kind of plan for, say, it could even be 7, but say 5 to 7 meals or whatever. And then on that specific day, they'll look at the meals that they purchase groceries for, and they'll say, okay, let's see, we have this, and that. I guess today we'll make this one. So they'll have like kind of like a framework of the meals they want to make, but they don't put it on a specific day, which is totally a good way to do it too. I just don't do it that way, because it's one more decision I still have to make. I don't want to pick from the meals. I just want to know, okay, we're having hamburgers tonight. Like, I don't want any extra decisions in what I'm going to be making that night. I just want it all laid out for me. So just for some perspective, this is kind of where I'm coming from when I'm talking about creating this meal plan. But you can do it for sure the other way, where you just kind of create a list of meals that you're going to make that week and choose from them, each day based on what you feel like making that night. Also, don't forget to consider prep time and cooking time. Like I was saying before, you don't want to plan to have like lasagna on a night that you're gonna have a lot going on. But to expand on that, make sure you look at the recipes, because what I've had happen to me before is I might see the recipe and remember making it last time and say, oh yeah, I remember that was really easy to throw together. I'll do that on this night when I don't have that much time to cook, or I'm going to be getting home a little bit later. But I'll forget about the fact that once it's thrown together, it needs to cook in the oven for an hour. So now I just prepared it real quick. I go to look at the recipe and I'm like, oh no, this has to cook for an hour and it's already like 7 o'clock or something. So don't forget to look at the prep time and the cook time when you're putting meals in your meal plan, to make sure that you have enough time for all the processes of the cooking. Decide where you want to store your meal plan. I use an app called Mealboard. I think I might have paid for it. I might have paid for the upgrade version. I've had it for a really long time. I honestly don't remember, but I have a feeling that I might have paid a few dollars for it. But I'm only referencing Mealboard just because that's what I use. There's lots of different meal apps, and I'm sure there's free ones and paid ones. And what I like about this particular app, and again, these features I'm sure are offered in many, many apps, but what I like about it is it stores all of my recipes. So it shows like the days of the week, and I just click a button and I insert the recipe onto that day. And then when I'm done creating my meal plan for the week, it will create a shopping list for me of everything, of all the ingredients that are in those recipes for the week. So it just works well for me. I can add my own recipes to it. I can import recipes from mostly every website I think I've ever tried to. There might have been a handful that I couldn't, but I can import recipes. I can put in my own manual recipes. So I like it. But really, if you want to use an app, any recipe app that kind of has those basic functions, where you can have your recipes in it and you can create a shopping list, I think those are probably the two most important aspects that you want to make sure you have, because you don't want to have your recipes in an app and then have to go manually write down all the ingredients that you're going to need if you don't have to. So you can also just use a spreadsheet. You could use a notebook. You could use a whiteboard on the fridge. Whatever works for you. The simpler recipes you're making, the less you have to worry so much about keeping them in a format that's easy to get the ingredients. Like if you're making like hamburgers, let's say, basically you need ground beef or ground turkey or whatever you're making them with, hamburger buns, and then like whatever sides you're making. So it's pretty simple ingredients. But if you're making something more complicated, you're probably going to have some kind of better method to access those recipes so that you can create your list of the ingredients that you're going to need. And then, but anyway, not then, but the most important thing about this really is just to have that one central location to have your meals listed in, and to have a simple way to see what ingredients you're going to need for the recipes that you're going to make. So once you've decided like what you want the meal plan to achieve, then you want to start creating the meal plan itself. Like you have your notebook, or you have your app, or you have your recipes. So what you want to do is first have some recipes identified to choose from to create your meal plan. So if you haven't really done a meal plan before, it's probably a good idea to kind of make a list of a bunch of recipes that you and your family eat on a regular basis. Maybe start with say 10 to 15 recipes, and use those to choose from, for your first meal plan. So the first meal plan is usually kind of easy because you haven't really started doing it week after week after week. So you can kind of just look at your recipes and say, okay, we'll do this day, this that day, whatever. And that worked fine at first for me, but then that's where I started struggling with thinking, well, when did I make this last? And how often did I make this? And I'd start to overthink the meal plan like crazy. So that's when I had heard about having some type of kind of framework for each night, which made things a lot easier for me. So you can do this a couple of different ways. So one example is that you can maybe choose a theme night for each night. So say like maybe one night is pasta night, maybe another night is Mexican night. You can maybe have a night where you do a new recipe. You can have a soup night. You can have a night where you make chicken. Whatever type of theme you want to work within is fine. It doesn't matter. It can be, you can like create a theme, like a tropical theme. I don't know, like whatever kind of theme that you can think of to be creative. But the most important part of having, if you're going to go with like themes, the most important part of this is that it kind of reins you in a little bit when picking your recipes, because it can really be so overwhelming on looking at every single day of the week and then just looking at this enormous variety of recipes and trying to figure out which one you should have that night. So by having a theme, say if it's like pasta night, you're not looking at the recipes that are like, I don't know, fried chicken or hamburgers or steak. You're not looking at any of those recipes because it's pasta night. So you're kind of focusing in on, okay, we're going to have a pasta dish for this night. And by assigning a different theme to each night of the week, you're already building in some variety throughout the week, because it's not like, okay, we're going to have, like chicken parm on Monday and then like chicken tenders on Wednesday and then chicken whatever on Friday. You're kind of assigning a theme to each day of the week. You're already building in some type of variety. And honestly, you really don't need that. Most people, okay, I would think that most people, I listen to a lot of people that talk about meal planning and food prep and stuff like that. And I definitely believe that most people are okay with not having a huge amount of variety. So don't get so stressed out and overwhelmed with trying to have this like great variety in all your meal plans. You'll be fine. Most people kind of eat the same types of things over and over. It's like if you go to say your local pizza place. I mean, when you go there, you might go there once in a while, and it's not like they have new recipes every time. It's going to be the same pizza, sub sandwiches, whatever they've always had. So it's okay to choose from the same types of meals, but you don't want to, of course, most people aren't going to want to eat the same things throughout the week. But if you're having some type of variety throughout the week and then rotating over the course of weeks, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to be bringing in all these new recipes all the time unless you want to. That's not what meal planning is about. Meal planning is just about having a plan for what you're going to eat so that you don't really have to worry about it. You can get your ingredients and you know what you're going to cook that night. So, okay, so that's one way, is doing like a theme night. If you're okay with repeating things like the same types of recipes more frequently, this is actually how I do it. I do a separate meal plan episode each week where I actually share what my meal plan is for the week for those that are interested in following along, or just using it to listen to for motivation to create your meal plan. To maybe you might hear something, you're like, oh yeah, we haven't done that in a while, whatever. But when I do that meal plan, what I do is I use a very basic rotation of the meals that I'm making. Most of the meals, not all of them, but most of them. And it builds the meal plan in advance for me. And it's made my meal planning so simple for me, because I don't have to spend all that time and I don't sit there stressing about what we're going to have. I'm okay with rotating things and having them over and over again over the course of the year. And if I don't feel like having it anymore, then I just say, okay, we need something new for this night, and I'll switch it out. It's not like I'm committed to it, but it's already there. And if I don't have time to think of something else, or I don't have time to spend a lot of time meal planning, I already have something in place. So what I do is I have, for a certain meal that we're going to make, I say, okay, how often am I going to do this meal and what day is it going to be for? So when I created my meal plan, I decided that on Mondays, like hamburgers are something that we eat like, fairly frequently. So I said, okay, what night will we have hamburgers? Monday night sounds like a good night for hamburgers. How often do we want to do them? Every other week is fine. So Monday, meal plan, hamburgers. As soon as we have hamburgers that Monday, now I did have this written down at one point so that I could follow along, so that I would know when to plot each thing in the future, but now I just have it memorized, so I don't really have to do it that way. So Monday night comes, we have our hamburgers, I go into my meal plan app, I move 2 Mondays ahead, I put hamburgers on the meal plan. So now that Monday's done. As soon as that Monday comes again, we have hamburgers, I go 2 weeks ahead, I put hamburgers on the menu. The in-betweens, I do steak one of those Mondays, and the other Monday in between, I do like hot dogs, like Italian hot dogs. So every Monday is planned for. It's going to be, if I follow in the order, because I do every other, so basically the steak is once every 4 weeks, the hot dogs are every 4 weeks. So it's like hamburgers, steak, hamburgers, hot dogs, hamburgers, steak, hamburgers, hot dogs. Every Monday is planned out for as long as I want it to be. If I get tired of having hamburgers every 2 weeks, then I could either change it out with something entirely, which I probably wouldn't do because I think that'll probably just stay part of our meal plan. Everyone kind of likes it. But maybe I'll say, okay, I think I just want to do hamburgers once a month now. We're doing it too often. So same thing. In one of those other weeks, I would just add in something different, and that would become part of the rotation. But the idea is that it's very specific and it's already planned out. Now, say if I have a new recipe and I'm like, oh, I really would like to make that recipe on Monday. Well, what I do is I just take the hamburgers out of that particular Monday. I put in the new recipe, but the rest of the plan still stays the same. So whenever the next time we were supposed to have hamburgers is, I'll just make sure it's already lined up there, and then I just continue forward from there. So then, like, I do the same thing on Tuesdays. Every other Tuesday is tacos. On the alternate Tuesdays, I do like a homemade Chipotle night where I just make like a bunch of Chipotle bowl type fillings, and everyone can make their own bowl. So every other Tuesday is tacos. Every other alternate Tuesday is Chipotle. So Tuesdays are covered. And then on the other nights, I don't have it as specific like that as a certain exact meal, but I do have, like I said, Thursdays I do either soup and grilled cheese or breakfast for dinner. So when I'm planning my meal for Thursday, I'm not scrolling through all these recipes trying to figure out what am I going to make for dinner on Thursday. I'm looking if I know it's a soup and grilled cheese night. So I kind of do the breakfast for dinner like once a month, and then all the other ones I do soup and grilled cheese, but I don't have it planned out so specifically that it's soup and grilled cheese, breakfast. It's not like that. It's just either soup and grilled cheese or breakfast for dinner. And I'll just kind of, when I go to it, I'll just think, do I want to do breakfast for dinner this Thursday, or do I want to do soup and grilled cheese? Breakfast for dinner, I do the same thing every time I do breakfast for dinner. I'm not looking for recipes, ingredients. I do turkey bacon, I do scrambled eggs, I do potatoes in the air fryer. I have certain things. So if I'm going to decide that's what we're going to do this week, then I just put that on, those meals on, those ingredients. If I'm going to do soup and grilled cheese, I go into the app and I look at my soup recipes. That's it. That's all I have to do. What soup haven't we had in a while? Oh, we haven't had this one in a while, and I'll put that on. So I'm not like overwhelmed with these enormous amount of recipes that I'm choosing from. It's like really reining me in. Now on the weekends is where I usually kind of mix things up. So, but when I'm looking at recipes for the weekend, I know it's not going to be hamburgers, it's not going to be tacos, not going to be super grilled cheese. It's not going to be any of those other categories that I already know I make throughout the week. So even though I'm choosing from more variety of recipes on the weekend, I'm still eliminating all those other things that I know I already have in my normal rotation. So I'm still choosing from less recipes. Now, I definitely could build in a rotation for the weekends. I just haven't. It's really worked out well for me having most of the days already planned out, and it's not so overwhelming picking something different for a couple of days of the week. So that's how I've been doing it. I think the whole point that I want to get across here is that meal planning doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have this amazing variety of recipes all the time. You can pick the recipes you like, come up with some plan to rotate them. I think the most important part is really having that framework where you either are rotating on a regular basis or you have a theme. You really want some type of structure to be able to place those recipes into, because when you just look at every individual day and then you just look at all these like enormous amounts of recipes, it can take a long time and it can be really stressful in trying to figure out what you want to do every single day and keep mixing things up. It doesn't need to be that complicated. And the more you can kind of repeat recipes, it makes it easier too for grocery shopping, because you're kind of buying the same types of things. So even when you're in the grocery store, you know where the things are, you generally know the cost. So it makes life a lot easier, but you don't have to do it that way. I mean, if you love having new recipes all the time and you have the time to cook them, you can definitely do that. But again, if you put some kind of framework to it so that when you're going to those recipes to choose them, you're not overwhelmed looking at this enormous amount of recipes. You're looking for, like I said, a pasta recipe or a chicken recipe for each different day of the week. It just makes it so much easier to get that meal plan together. So that's kind of the point that I want to get across here. You want to make it simple for yourself. The whole point is to make life easier by creating a meal plan, not to make it this crazy complicated process. And then, the only other thing I wanted to mention is that you do want to coordinate your meal planning with your grocery shopping day. So you don't want to wait till if you grocery shop on Friday, you don't want to try and wait until Thursday night to finish your meal plan. Because if something comes up and you don't have time, well, now you're going to be all messed up with the timing of your meal plan. Because if you can't go shopping on Friday because you don't even have your list of ingredients together yet, it's going to mess you up a little bit. So I usually always try and make sure that my meal plan and my shopping list are ready at least a couple days before I actually go shopping, just to make sure that I'm prepared and I don't have to go crazy trying to get it together at the last minute. So that's kind of it. I did want to mention, if you are finding that meal planning is overwhelming, one idea is maybe to just start with planning one night per week. Like maybe if you just plan a meal for every Monday and then the other days you just kind of wing it. If you're currently just winging it, maybe just start by picking one night and say, okay, this night I'm going to plan a meal. And then just kind of expand from there once you get the hang of it. And then, try and stick with simple recipes to start with. If the whole process is kind of overwhelming to you and you don't want to cook different recipes, or you just want to, or maybe you do want to cook different recipes but it just seems overwhelming, start with simple recipes, and then over time you can kind of start swapping them out. But just keep it as simple as you possibly can to get started, and then you can always tweak it over time. You don't want to start out complicated and then not want to do it at all. Just start out simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. You don't need all these new crazy fancy recipes. You can make simple, basic meals that your family's used to eating, and you'll see it will really make your life easier. I think it will. Maybe it's not for all people, but I think it has made a huge difference once I realized that I could make this simple and not make it so complicated, where I was searching through all these recipes every week trying to figure out what I was going to make and try and have this amazing variety at all times. It doesn't have to be that way. And what's good about keeping it flexible is that, or keeping it simple, is that if you have your meal plan in place already and you suddenly think, oh, we haven't had that in a while, I'd really like to have that. Well, go to your meal plan that's already done, take out one of the recipes, put in the new one that you want to make. It's so much easier to be able to go back and change it like that, rather than have this blank slate and then you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. So that's it for today. I hope maybe a couple of these tips might have helped you with creating a meal plan, or kind of just getting the thought process together of what you might want to be thinking about when you're creating a meal plan. So if you'd like to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook at facebook.com/Lola's Frugal Life. You can also submit a request to join our private listener group, which is at facebook.com/groups/Lola's Frugal Life. I also wanted to mention, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the episode and I totally forgot. One of my listeners sent me a message, like a screenshot, that this was her most listened to podcast this year. And I just thought it was the nicest thing. Like, I just couldn't believe that she took the time to do that. So if you're listening, I just wanted to thank you. It was so nice, like, for someone to go out of their way and do that. I just thought it was like such a nice thing. So I just wanted to share that on the episode. It was super nice of her to do. So anyway, thank you for doing that. But I did want to mention, if you like the show, please don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you wouldn't mind leaving me a 5-star rating, if you like the show, on whatever app you're listening, if they have ratings, it really helps with expanding those who can find the show when they're doing a search for this type of podcast. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a really awesome day.